Inravio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and you're watching the 5 Off, 5 On Racing Show live from New York. Wow, hope everybody had a good week. We had some weather up here in the whole entire East Coast last week, as a matter of fact. But we survived it. We're back. We're here. We're ready to rock and roll. Some of the things that are going on in the news and racing. Surprisingly enough, the United States Senate reintroduced the RPM Act. That's not the Richard Petty Motorsports Act. That is the Recognizing the Protection of Motorsports Act of 2017, which they did last Tuesday. In doing so, the Senate joined the House of Representatives in reintroducing the RPM Act. And basically, it's a bipartisan bill. It's in Senate .203, introduced by Senator Richard Burrow, a Republican out of North Carolina, which protects Americans' rights to modify streetcars and motorcycles into dedicated race vehicles, and it also protects the industry for the right to sell parts, enabling racers to compete. There were some people out there that felt that racing is not a viable sport or a business, did not think it was environmentally safe, did not think it was physically safe, and they petitioned their local representatives to make it illegal to take a car or motorcycle of any sort and have it made into a race vehicle. It also, the original bill had a ruling that it made it illegal to sell the parts. Imagine that. To individuals who were modifying cars and motorcycles to make them street vehicles or race vehicles. So the act has been reintroduced by the Senate. The House has already done that. So racers win again. You know, so many people are trying to chop us up, cut us down, and take away, in some cases, our livelihood and our passion. And you know, I've said this before, you know, you have golf courses all over the place. You have shooting ranges all over the place, tennis courts, basketball courts, swimming pools. Everybody has the right to enjoy what they do. Places where you can go hunting, you buy your license, places you go fishing. Those people all have a right to do what their passion is. Why shouldn't racers? And when I say that, when I look at the Long Island needs a drag strip people who are actively seeking to put a drag strip on Long Island to keep the cost of racing down to its groups and members and future groups of members, so they do not have to leave Long Island and go to New Jersey and to Pennsylvania and parts further south, north, east, and west, and spend tremendous money just to get their haulers off Long Island, and then spend the same money to come all the way back onto Long Island. You know, a couple of bridges, a couple of tunnels, tolls, it all adds up. Fuel, they need to do it here on Long Island. And when you see a bill like this in the Senate and the House of Representatives, they are taking racers seriously. And, you know, when you look at that, when you look at something like that being reintroduced, because it got kind of put down, it's reintroduced, it's on the Senate floor, and that's big for the races. So I want to thank our representatives there in the Senate and also in the House of Representatives for recognizing the fact that we need racing. We need to be able to take cars, whether we take them out of the junkyard, whether we build them from scratch, and we need to take these motorcycles, however they are, wherever they buy them, and be able to modify those things so that they can have their hobby or their sport or their business. And also think of the, I'm not even saying hundreds, thousands of parts shops and race shops that could virtually be out of business, taking their livelihoods away from them as well. So That's one of the things to say. And they're like, Long Island Need for Speed is saying that they paid over $200 to leave the Long Island just to go racing, and that was what it cost to leave the island. And Jay Slice is saying that people against racing, it's like this, he's got two words for it's not Merry Christmas, and he's right. This is what we do. We as racers, we do not put down people who like to go fishing and hunting and play tennis and golf. We don't put them down. The equestrian people, we let them enjoy their life. We're not trying to take a golf course and make it a drag strip. We're not trying to take an equestrian center and make it an oval track. We want our piece of the pie too. We want a piece of the pie too, and we're entitled to it. And our government representatives are realizing this, and they're seeing this, that we're voters too. We have a say, and we're not going away. So, thanks to John Casale and his group for trying to make this happen and spearheading this, and the people that are behind this, just here on Long Island, for Long Island Needs a Drag Strip, and those out there who would love to see another oval track on Long Island. And I've always said, if there were two tracks on Long Island, people will say, how can we support two racetracks? I'll tell you how we could do that when it comes to oval track racing. Fictitiously, a track gets built, we'll say Wading River on Long Island. East End, just past Riverhead, or just before Riverhead, I should say. And then you have Riverhead Raceway. One should run Friday night, one should run Saturday night. You have a Long Island champion. You take your points from both racetracks at the end of the year, and whoever assesses the most points is the Long Island champion. Both tracks would flourish. They shouldn't compete against each other. They shouldn't go like years ago when you had Freeport and ISOP running on Saturday nights and competing against each other and not getting good car counts because some of the guys would be at one and other guys would be at the other. They needed to work together, have a Long Island champion. And I've said it, the same thing with the Long Island racers here on Long Island that race at Riverhead and the New London Waterford Speed Bowl. Legend Cars, INEX, runs at both racetracks. Have a cross-sound challenge. You take your New London Waterford Speed Bowl legend guy, whatever points he gets, they race at Riverhead, Long Island here, and now there's a cross-sound. It benefits both racetracks. Yeah, Waterford and Riverhead both run on the same night. So you have special events, maybe 4 events at each racetrack where you let them go back and forth. It's something that needs to do. We need to grow the sport. We need to make it more interesting, and we need to get more people involved. And what we really need to do is get the young people involved. We need to get the young people involved in our sport because the young people are the ones that are going to help our sport grow. If we're not bringing in any new blood, as the old guys stop racing, as they unfortunately pass away, or they just can't afford it anymore, and there's nobody to move in and take over, then that division or that sport or that racetrack even kind of dies off. Yeah, there's feeder divisions in some of the racetracks with the younger kids, and I think with the INEX Legends and the Bandoleros, yeah, you're gonna get that. You have those people who they're not gonna move up. You have a Bandolero guy who's gonna move input to the Legend car and hopefully move into a full-fended late model or street stock, and then who knows what could happen from there. Maybe they're happy there. Maybe they want to get into a modified and go touring with it. Who knows? But if you don't get these kids involved when they're young, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them to other things. And in today's society, there's too much out there that these kids would get involved with or lost in, and some of it's not good. So you get them involved with racing. Yeah, I remember growing up, my parents telling me racing was a waste of time, waste of gas, waste of energy. But I developed some good friendships over the years, lifelong friendships over the years. And guys that we hated each other on the racetrack, but Sunday through Friday, if I needed help, that guy was there. If he needed help, I was there. And that's who it was. And like Jay Slice says, and it's so true, these kids, they play video games all day. That's what they do. And they'll spend hours trying to, beat the mission or whatever it is. And I can remember years ago when my son was in his early teens, And I'm sitting there doing whatever, and he says, "Hey, Pops, you wanna play some football?" I was all ecstatic. Yeah, we go on in the backyard, throw a football around, have some fun. So I go, I get my coat, I go in the garage, I get the football, and he's sitting on the couch. What are you doing? I'm gonna play football. He was gonna play one of the NFL games on PlayStation, and I'm like, "Son, that's not football. That's not football." When I was a kid, we played football in the street, tackle in the street. That's what we did. And our clothes would be ripped, we'd all bloodied up, but we'd all have a good time. It's what you have to do. And we have to get the kids off the couch, away from their TV, away from their video games, and we need to put them in the garage. We need to put them in the race shop. We need to get them interested in what we do. And racing's not going to wait. Like Richard Petty once said, racing started when the second car came off the assembly line. That's the racing. Racing's been a part of history since cars first rolled off the assembly line, because each manufacturer wanted to go faster and better, and back then the endurance races longer and further to prove that this is what we do, and our car is better. And throughout the 50s and the 60s, the motto was, win on Sunday, you sell on Monday. Back when the cars were stock cars, where you could look at that car and the fabulous Hudson Hornet, it would go win a race on Sunday. Monday, how many people won and bought the Hudson Hornet because it was a winning car? Or in the mid-60s, the Ford Galaxies, how many won? They were out there running Ford Galaxies and they're winning. Let's go buy one. We want to be the winners. How many people bought the Monte Carlo because of Dale Earnhardt? Think about that. That's kind of faded away because all the cars look exactly the same if it were not for decals. And so be it. But we need to get these young kids involved with racing. And whether it's they play in the band and the band plays the national anthem before the race, or they're a Boy Scout troop that's going to do the national anthem, the pledge before a race. And you get 30, 40 young people going to a racetrack to perform. If you get two of them that say, wow, I want to come back, I want to back. And as Tracy from Evans Mill Speedway, upstate New York, says, one of the issues now, though, is the pressure put on kids early in the car. And she's right. I'm kind of saying we got to push it because they get burnt out. I can remember talking to a driver who was mid-20s, drove a modified, and all of a sudden he wasn't racing anymore. What's going on? He goes, Joe, I've been racing since I'm 4 years old. I want to do other things. Every weekend was at the racetrack. Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, doing working on the car in the shop. I didn't have a chance to be a kid and grow up and play baseball or get involved with major league sports and be a fan. I was always racing. And that does happen. And yet, it happens in every sport, though. Every parent thinks their kid is the next Cy Young or the next Babe Ruth, and they get him in Little League, and the pressure is put on to win. And all of a sudden, in the last few years, because whether you were 20-0 or 0-20, you still got the same trophy because we can't hurt people's feelings. But in racing, who won that race. The guy who came in first. And they don't give trophies to the top 20 at the end of the race. They give the trophy to the winner. But as long as, and I was just going to say that, Tracy, you need to keep it fun for them. And I know when my daughter was racing champ karts, we had fun doing it. We'd go out to the old Medford Speedway with the champ kart or the go-kart on a Friday night practice. On the way out, we'd go get pizza. Just her and I, having a pizza. Her mother would come out later on and watch the practice, because she had something with the sisters, with my daughter's sisters, and my daughters, I guess, too. And we did that, and those memories, you look back, we had a great time, and we kept it fun. I mean, in fact, winning made it fun too, but when she moved up to the big cars and wasn't winning, it was still fun. Still fun. But anyway, it's all good. And I'll tell you what, it's something that we need to take a look at as not only as parents, but as race fans. We have to continue to grow our sport, and we need to get people involved. And, a lot of people, what's a race car? What's a race car? I can remember somebody that I worked with years ago. I was still in college, and I told him I raced at ISO. Oh, how many times did you win? None. Oh, what do you mean, none? Why do you still do it? Oh, because how fast is your lap? I said, about 14 seconds. 14 seconds? That's nothing. No wonder why you're not winning. But it was an oval track. It wasn't, they saw racing as drag racing. And, either you win or you go home with the brackets. They didn't understand. And a lot of people do not understand circle track racing. But anyway, we're at that age, and there always seems to be some bad news in the world of racing. And this past Friday, a man that I considered a friend at the Speedways, Howie Hodge. Harry Hodge was involved with motorsports for 50 years as a photographer, along with his wife Mary, who he was married to for 53 years. His photos appeared in area auto racing news, Speedway Scene, the Chrome Horn, and numerous other publications and magazines. The list of awards that Howie has won for his photography is endless. The first time I met Howie, I was a tour official, and there was a note on the trailer, and it said, all drivers report to whatever location for the headshot. So all the drivers had to go, and they had to wear the series at the time, Featherlight Modifieds, hat and get their headshot. Then all of a sudden he grabbed me. He goes, I don't have a headshot for you. I said, what do you need a headshot for me for? And he says, you don't really want to know, do you? I said, yeah, I don't need a headshot. He goes, in the event something happens to you, the newspapers will have a headshot from NASCAR, an official headshot. So let's take that picture and make it happen. Well, we never got a headshot for Howie, but this is a picture I had in my archives. And our prayers here from Inravio TV and the 505 on Racing Show go to his wife, Mary. And Howie, you touched a lot of people in 50 years. Rest in peace, my friend.
Hey, this is Chris Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Tracy, I was all right with this until you put that. Anyway, racing at Daytona was this past week in the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, and the winning team comprised of Ricky Taylor, Max Angelelli, Jordan Taylor, and NASCAR's own retired driver, Jeff Gordon. And I'll tell you what, I watched bits and pieces of that event, and those stands had a lot more people in them than they had for previous Rolex 24 events at Daytona. And I'm thinking people wanted to see Jeff Gordon race. Jeff Gordon is a good marketing ticket. Jeff Gordon could show up at a go-kart track and do some laps and the place would be crowded. Jeff Gordon can go back to his roots and show up at Eldora and have a match race with Tony Stewart. There'd be standing room only. Jeff Gordon is a professional race car driver. Jeff Gordon has skills that I'm going to tell you what, and I was never a Jeff Gordon fan, but I do recognize talent. And Jeff Gordon is smooth. He's enough of a hothead to make him enough of an aggressive driver that he's going to get by you one way or another cleanly, but he's enough of a professional that he's not going to destroy you doing it. And, you know, he did some road course racing, Watkins Glen, Sonoma, and the 24 hours at Daytona, it's road racing. He did a nice job. The team did a nice job, and at the 24-hour race, it's a team effort. And I'm not going to say this team wouldn't have won without Jeff Gordon. They may have. And I'm not saying Jeff Gordon made the difference here. But Jeff Gordon gave himself a little bit of credit here that he really didn't need, and he had nothing to prove. But I've seen other Cup Series drivers racing this Rolex thing. Yeah, there's been some success with some of them. Some of them, you know, okay, you know, not a big deal, and they weren't big draw names, but they won. So racing at Daytona has begun for 2017, and it's just a matter of a few weeks before the Daytona 500. And I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but we'll call it the 500. And in Speed Weeks, a lot going on for Speed Weeks between New Smyrna and Bronson and Daytona. So I know a lot of people, they plan their annual vacations around Speed Weeks. I used to do the same, and when my kids were small. And even when they were a little bigger too, so looking forward to 2017. Speaking of 2017, NASCAR, in its infinite wisdom, has come up with a new points calculation in the top 3 series. Now, I'm going to go over the major I'm not going to go over each and everything that goes, but basically each race will be divided up into 3 stages. The length of each stage depends on the size of the track, obviously. The top 10 finishes in each segment, they're going to go yellow at that segment. The top 3 finishes in each segment will be awarded additional championship points, with the winner of the first 2 stages will receive 1 point, and the overall winner will receive 5 playoff points. I haven't seen the word chase anywhere. Maybe I missed it. Each playoff point will be added to the driver's reset total following the 26th race if that driver makes the playoffs. Each driver at each stage will be awarded points. There will be 10 points, 9 points, 8 points, 7, all the way down the line for the top 10, which will be added to their total for the races. The winner will receive additional points as well. And I gotta wonder, why is NASCAR doing this? And I put some thoughts to it. Yeah, as Jace is saying, looks like 2 heats and a feature in one race. I'm telling you, you're not far off. And I'm telling you why NASCAR is doing this, because the fans are saying the races are boring. The fans and probably the sponsors are saying, yo, this is boring. And NASCAR has guaranteed that TV is not going to break away and we miss each segment. They're going to work that out, less commercial time. I guess you got to pay more for a commercial. But the races are boring. And the drivers beat and bang and push and shove to get a position in line, so to speak, where they could just now ride around. There's not a lot of pushing and shoving and beating and banging in the first 25, 30 laps. They're all going to get in position, and they're going to just ride around, and as one driver put it to me, got to stay close. Now what's going to happen is this. It makes a difference. Take New Hampshire, 100 laps. I'm sure the first segment will be lap 30, the next one will be lap 60, and then you finish it off with 100 laps. So they're going to be racing for those points. And they're going to be racing. And I know, like with me, I fall asleep sometimes watching these races on TV, and I wake up towards the end because that's when they start racing, Because as Winnie is saying, the people watch the start shut it off, go do other things, and they put back the last 30 laps, and that's what's happening. So they got to make it a little exciting. They keep trying to reinvent the wheel. And I've always said, no matter what the sport is, whether it's professional baseball, professional football, hockey, basketball, tennis, whatever it is, put a competitive product on TV and people watch. People don't want to just see a parade with no music when it comes to racing. When I go to some modified touring events and they start straight up in time trials, pretty much how they start is how they're going to finish. But then you reinvert the field a little bit. Maybe you go back 10 spots, 8 spots, 6 spots. Makes it a race again. Those guys got to race for position. And they're racing guys that are pretty close to them in time. So I don't know. NASCAR keeps trying to reinvent the wheel. You want to make the races more exciting? Lose the restrictor plates at the restrictor plate tracks. Take some of the downforce away from the cars and make the drivers drive. That's what's going to make it happen. Now a lot of the pressure now is going to be on these pit crews because the middle 3/4 of the race now counts. You mess up on pit road in one of the segments, you could be in the points or out of the points, And NASCAR needs to take a look at the product. NASCAR needs to take a look at how to make the cars raceable. I don't think with the 40-car starting field when the pole guy and the last qualifying car are less than a second apart, a second is you blink your eyes and open them. That's a second. The days of the Richard Pettys and the Bobby Allisons and the Cale Yarboroughs and the Leroy Yarboroughs and the David Pearsons lapping the field for the win are over. NASCAR will never allow that. But you know what? People loved it. They were on their feet. How many more cars is he going to lap? How many more cars are they going to pass? Because the driver drove the car then. And they drove the car, they steered the car with the gas pedal. That's how they got past people. That's how they drove around the corners sideways. Something that NASCAR needs to take a look at because the product isn't that good. The product isn't that good. And speaking of not that good, there's the top 9 NASCAR active drivers with their winless streaks. I'm looking at this and I said, this is kind of interesting. We'll start from the 9th place guy and work our way to the number 1 longest losing streak or non-winning streak. Casey Kane is 83 races without a win. His last win came in August of 2014. 8th, A.J. Allmendinger, 86 races without a win. His last win came at Watkins Glen in 2014. Eric Almirola, 90 races without a win. His last came at Daytona in 2014. Then went followed by 6th, Jamie McMurray, 112 races without a win. Talladega, 2013 was his last one. Then we have Ryan Newman, 124 races without a win. His last one's the Brickyard in 2013. Trevor Bayne, 129 races without a win. His last win was Daytona in 2011. David Reagan, number 3, is 134 races without a win. Talladega was his last one in 2013. Clint Boyer, 149 races. I think that'll be 150 in Daytona. His last win was at Charlotte in 2012. And the number 1 longest winless streak, drum roll please, Paul Menard, 196 events without a win. Last win was in 2011 at the Brickyard. And I might add, that was his first and only win. Whoa. Another more news out of Daytona. Michael Waltrip, he'll be racing in his 30th and final Daytona 500. He won in 2001 under sad circumstances after 462 race winless streak. He also won in 2003. Michael Waltrip, for some reason, is good in restrictor plate racing. It'd be interesting to see how that turns out for Michael in 2017. So Michael Waltrip will be hanging up the helmet officially, finally. He's been in the sport a long time. And That's one of the guys that he hung on a little bit too long, just a little bit too long. And nice guy. I've met him. I've had breakfast with him, which was an interesting and memorable breakfast. I won't get into it here because I just won't get into it here. But good guy, funny, nice guy. I've spent some time with Michael, and he could tell you some stories. You think I tell stories? He could tell you some stories. But anyway, it's all good. It's all good. When we come back, we'll have some of the results of the Atlantic City Indoor TQ races and some of the news and some pictures that we took while we were down there when we come back.
Hi, my name is Aaron from Real Big Fish.
And I'm Ed from Real Big Fish.
And you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Rich Willie. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you get punched in the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop. 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Welcome back. All right, I headed down to Atlantic City for the indoor races at the Boardwalk Hall on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. A race, or an event, I should say, that I first attended, I believe in 1977 or 78, with my good friend and racing buddy and card-playing friend, Bill Stockard. And he had said that, and I remember sitting in my mom's house. He goes, "Hey, next weekend I'm going to Atlantic City." I says, "Oh, really? I've never been there." He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to go down Friday, and we're going to go down Saturday." I says, "I didn't think you were such a big gambler." He goes, "I'm not going to gamble. I'm going to the indoor racers for the TQs." For those who don't know, TQ 3/4 midgets. And I says, "Really?" He goes, "Oh, it's awesome." Blah, blah. So I go, and I went both nights with him, Friday and Saturday. And I went this past weekend, and there I am with Miss Motorsports 2017, Taylor Alberts. And she was throwing around T-shirts into the grandstands, and she was reaching the top tier, throwing them. And I heard somebody talking to her on the infield, and she said, "I played softball in college." So it was a nice, and becoming Miss Motorsports isn't an easy thing to do. It's one of those things that you're voted on, and you have to go through this whole big thing, and there she was, Miss Motorsports. I know I should have wore a darker shirt, solid, and we would have matched, but anyway. And pictured here with me is Eric Rudolph. Eric Rudolph won the Gambler Classic at the Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. Rudolph has won 3 of the 4 in the last 4 seasons. Saturday night's victory was won by .003, which is 0.003 of a second, over Zane Ziner, who last dash attempted pass coming off at turn 4. And I'm thinking if Zane Ziner would have had another 10 feet, he would have had it. But Eric Rudolph, I remember him from the modified series. Awesome driver, awesome driver, did a nice job. And here we are with Anthony Ferrante, for those who don't remember Anthony. Anthony was a NASCAR wheeling modified tour driver for 22 seasons, cutting his teeth here on Long Island at the Riverhead Raceway. Anthony was there watching the races from the infield and, getting to talk with Anthony. And he says, it's funny. He goes, and then all those years racing, I never had time to do a lot of things. He goes, now I want to go on my boat, go to Yankee games. And I'm thinking because I'm not racing, I have plenty of time. No, he still doesn't have time to do those things because work and family and business, that kind of takes us. So it was good talking to Anthony Ferrante. He ran the old 31 car, which was the car owned by his father, that Jimi Hendrickson drove as the X3 back in the day in Islip Speedway and Freeport Speedway, and it was all good. And then we walked around. We had Jimmy Blewett. Jimmy Blewett, when I spoke to him down in Charlotte, said he was going to announce what he was doing in a couple of weeks, and he announced it. Jimmy Blue will be going for the title at the Wall Township Speedway down in southern New Jersey in the modified. No more dirt cars, no more touring series cars. He wants to stay local. He wants to stay close to home. And he's looking to take down another championship wreath in the modified ranks at the Wall Township Speedway. We were walking around. Ryan Preece, former NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour driver who won Xfinity Racing, will be back full-time with the TS Haulers Eddie Partridge Modified on the tour. Ryan, another good wheelman, and I'll tell you what, I've seen him drive just about everything, and he's awesome. He is good. He makes it happen. He's a clean driver, and he's young, and he'll be back up in the top 3 series because the only thing that keeps you from running in those series when you're as good as him is money. And I think the people are going to watch him in 2017. He had a decent run in the TQs here at Atlantic City, but he'll be a force to reckon with on the tour in 2017. Looking forward to seeing him. And then we got the natural, Timmy Solomino. Timmy was also a modified driver that was taking a shot in the TQs. Timmy ran very well. And I'll tell you what, Timmy is another one. He is dedicated and focused to racing, and I'll tell you what, I'm not going to get into his personal life or his private life or any of that, but I'll tell you what, he's focused, and his eye is on the big picture. His eye is on that big picture, and I'll tell you what, this is another young guy who's going to go places racing. He's got the charm, the talent, he knows how to speak to people, and you know what, that's another asset when you go racing. You need to have that personal touch. You don't have to be as personal as Richard Petty, because that guy sets the stand. He sets that bar high. But you know what? When people come up there and they talk to you, that smile he has on his face, every time somebody walked up to him to get an autograph or to get something, they were handing out bags and stuff, he had that smile on. And I wish him well in 2017. It's all good. And then we have Zane Ziner. Zane Ziner made that last lap pass, tried to pass Eric Rudolph for the win, again losing or missing out. I don't want to say losing because he ran a tough battle. Zane runs modifieds in Pennsylvania, ran a bit along Long Island, did some tour racing. It was good to see Zane. And Zane is a fabricator by trade, Ziner Fabrications, and his equipment always looks impeccable. And I've seen him race and get caught up in stuff, and then go see the following week, and you'd never know that car had a scratch on it. It's amazing how some of these guys run. And Zane, another guy, always has a smile on his face. He's doing this for fun. And when I asked him, what are you doing in 2017? He goes, well, I'm going to race here, I'm going to race there, I'm going to race here, I'm going to. I goes, nowhere serious, but it is serious. He wants to go out and race, and he's not looking to be the big fish in a little pond at some racetrack somewhere. He wants to go race wherever there's some good racing. And that's what a true racer is all about, especially when you get to be our age. And I'm not saying he's as old as me, but you know what? You get to a level where you just want to have fun. It's like playing golf. I don't play very well, but when I go, I have fun. And it's all about the people and all that. And he drove for Gary Creddy on the tour for a little while, and Gary Creddy, another one. You go back years ago to 380, an immaculate race car. So I want to wish him well in his endeavors. He's going to have a fun season in 2017. It's all good. And here we have TC, Ted Christopher, who, I'll tell you what, when they announced him the numerous times, he had the most boos I've ever heard. And it's not like it's like Lou Piniella when he played for the Yankees, when people would say Lou. It sounded like boo, but he knew they were saying Lou. Ted Christopher got booed out of the place. The guy got penalized, rough riding. They put him to the back of the pack in his qualifying race. He came back from the back. And is he a little aggressive? Yeah, he is. But he doesn't send you. When you race Ted Christopher, you know you've been in a race. And Ted Christopher and I, we're good buddies. We go back a long way. And he got caught up in a wreck. He was coming strong in a 40-lap feature. At the end, he was charging through the field and just got caught up, the car's wrecked. And here, in these races, you go to the pits, you're done. There's no fixing it. There's no putting it back together, no changing the right front. And the face that he has here, he has that face pre-race. He has that face post-race. Wrecker or checker. And Teddy Christopher, I asked him what his plans for 2017 is, and he's going to do a little bit of racing, not a lot. he's got some things going on. He's building a house, and he's got a business to run. So I'm going to miss seeing Teddy, beating and banging around and making you earn that pass, or protecting your pass. But it was good talking and sitting with Ted Christopher down in Atlantic City. And this one here, it was just what the cars looked like from my vantage point. And the second car in that line there is Jimmy Blewett. And that's what they looked like. That's a TQ. For those who've never seen one, I had the opportunity to drive a TQ a few times in Wall, and they're fun to drive. And sitting there, I got the urge again. And walking around the pit area during the Fan Fest, the infield, I should say, I ran into an individual who was talking about driving for somebody in 2017 in a division. I'm not going to get into the details, but jokingly he said, well, maybe you should do it because I want to do my own thing. And that joke turned into a serious conversation. So who knows what's going to happen? But AC was good. And like I said, Eric Rudolph was the winner. And they also had the Champ carts there. For those who don't know what a Champ cart is, it looks like a TQ with a go-kart engine on it. And the Champ cart winner was Cale Ross, who dominated the series feature in a race that saw a lot of attrition. In the slingshots, the winner was Danny Bucafusco, I believe, if I'm saying that right, in a race that started 28 cars and finished with 14. And again, it was just a tough beating and banging. I think the visibility on those things, the way the wings are, it's hard to see. And I don't think any of those wrecks were on purpose, just happened. But anywhere, with the TQs, like I said, Rudolph was the winner. Zane Ziner was second. Matt Janish was third. Jimmy Blewett finished fourth. And Mike Lichty finished fifth. And Justin Bonsignor, Long Island Zone, Bonsignor, NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour driver. In qualifying, he set a record qualifying time at the Boardwalk Hall of 7.975. That's moving. Justin won his qualifying heat on Friday night and got penalized a couple of times. One time in particular, I did not think it was his fault. It was just a hard racing deal, and got put to the back. And then, when you're back there with some competitors called the junk, it's not really junk because you made the show. If you know how many cars tried to qualify for this, man, nobody was junk here. But when he got caught up in some stuff, and then he just ended up going into the pits. So a nice weekend. Always look forward to it. Spent some time with some good friends and some even better friends and some close friends, and we had a great time. And Tracy, 7.975 is motoring. It is fast. Anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll start talk about the Hall of Fame and talk about some of the wrap-up when we come back.
Hi there, this is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Welcome back. Yeah, Tracy, that is fast. 7.97. And I'll tell you what, when these guys are racing these cars, it's all arms and elbows. It's all this and and this and then and from our vantage point, sitting in the front row on Friday night and sitting in the second row on Saturday night, where we were sitting Friday was in turn 4, and you see them coming down the backstretch, so to speak, and going through the corners, and you have a good shot at like who's hitting who's pushing who's taking them up. And on Saturday night, we were at the end of the straightaway, and they just seemed so much faster because where we were sitting, it was the lift point. We're the lift point. Now, the champ carts never lift. They're just standing on the gas pedal, and they're going. But these things, I'll tell you what, when they come through the corner, some of them I was watching, of course, they were bicycling, the left front wheel was coming, but some of them, their left rear was coming up. And I was like, whoa. And some of these guys rolled, and they spun, and they flipped, and they went all over the place, and one went on fire, and, from the oil dripping out, going on, and hot exhaust. And if you've never gone to an indoor race, next year when the series starts, and they're in Allentown, Trenton, and Atlantic City, you need to go. Just once. It's loud. There's a lot of fumes, even though they do the best they can to get it out. The people who go are into it. I mean, it's incredible. And you talk to a lot of people, and that were in Atlantic City on the boardwalk and wherever on the tram, even going back and forth. They're there for the races. They were there for the races. Atlantic City isn't what it once was. There's a lot of closed casinos, but a lot of people there were there for the races. And some people for the first time, some people for the 40th time. Some people have been following this indoor thing since racing started. They had indoor races at Madison Square Garden, the old Madison Square Garden years ago, the Brooklyn Armory, all over. And I'll tell you what, if Marty Himes was here, he'd give you the list of every single one and when. So it's just one of those things. And speaking of Marty Himes and auto racing nostalgia and historian and the Himes Museum of Nostalgia, our 300th show will be sometime in the middle of April. We'll give you the exact date. Next week we'll have the exact date that we're going to do the anniversary show. And if you want to be part of our live studio audience, just let me know. You can message me on Facebook, email us here in Inravio. If you want to be part of our live studio audience, you're welcome to come down. You guys and gals, especially ones here on Long Island. And if you guys, anybody who's out of Long Island wants to make the trip up, come on down. You never know, you might win an all-expense paid trip to see the show. I don't think so. I just wanted to say that because that sounded good. They say that on other shows. But anyway, if you want to be part of our live studio audience, just let me know. We'll reserve you a seat. Reserve you a seat at the show. Especially, there's some of you here that are here every week, not only in the chat room, but people who watch and don't go in the chat room. And I know where you're from because we see that, where you're from. And so you already have a guy. He wants to come. Let's look at that. We have a guest co-host that night who I am not going to name. It's going to be a surprise. And when the cameras go on and we go live, you'll see who that is. We'll have a guest co-host. And we'll have people here who never missed, and maybe not here physically, but maybe here in spirit, who never missed an anniversary show. They were here for 50, they were here for 100, they were here for 150, 200, and 200 they were here in spirit, and for 300 they'll be here again. It'll be a fun time. We'll have some giveaways, we'll have some snacks, we'll have some fun that day, some trivia contests, and I'm looking forward to it. 300 shows, and I want to thank you people for that. You know, you keep coming in, you keep going in the chat room, keep logging in, watching, keep going in the archives. If nobody was watching and nobody was logging in, there'd be like a show about cooking or something instead of me. But you know what? You guys keep coming, and I want to thank you. I'm going to thank you again that day, and again, we're going to have some fun. But anyway, NASCAR had their Hall of Fame inductions since our last show, and I want to name the 5 people that were inducted. Richard Childress, he was a series owner, and he's been involved with NASCAR from 1969 to the present. His teams have won 105 races, with Dale Earnhardt Sr., the most notable of the Richard Childress drivers, winning 6 championships. You got Rick Hendrick, the name speaks for itself, Hendrick Motorsports, owner from 1984 to the present, started in racing selling T-shirts out of a beat-up van in the parking lot of racetracks because he couldn't get in and pay the vendor fee. Now look at him. 240 wins as an owner, 12 championships, 7 with Jimmy Johnson, 4 with Gordon, and 1 with Terry Labonte back when he drove the Kellogg's Cornflake car, and with Tom Ryan was a fabricator of, our own Tom Ryan. Then we got Mark Martin, driver from 1981 to 2013, 40 victories as a driver. He's noted as the greatest driver never to win a championship, second in the points 5 times. One year, a NASCAR penalty cost him the championship when they deducted his points. If he would have had those points at the end when they tallied up everything, he would have been the champion that year. But the greatest driver never to win a championship, Mark Martin. Raymond Park, owner, had 2 wins. People say, oh, 2 wins. I said, no, there's many owners out there that did more than. But Raymond Park was part of NASCAR at its earliest. He was one of NASCAR's first and most successful team owner, starting in racing in 1938 and going right through up to his untimely death. His most notable driver, Curtis Turner. Here's a guy that said, you know what? He was racing here, racing there, racing at this place, racing at that place, racing on the beach. Decided, you know, maybe I'll be a better owner than a driver. And he was. Then we have Benny Parsons. I had the opportunity to meet Benny Parsons and talk with Benny Parsons years ago. He was a driver from 1964 to 1988 with 21 victories, most notable the 1975 Daytona 500. After he hung up his helmet, Benny Parsons became a commentator for NBC, TNT, for television. He passed away of cancer in 2007. And a little-known secret about Benny Parsons that I know because I talked to him about it, he's a former figure-8 champion. Started racing at the Mount Clemens Speedway up in Michigan. There's a fine list of gentlemen going into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And I'll tell you what, I've been to the NASCAR Hall of Fame many, many times, and the exhibits change and things change. And I went there again this past December, and you go there and you just walk around and you see things, and you look at the cars of yesteryear, you look at the cars of today, and you look at the bankings of the track. They have a thing that has all the cars, old cars, new cars, and the banking, 0 degrees, 18 degrees, 20, 30, 33. And then there's a section you could try to walk up the bank in, and if you've never been to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, you need to stop in and spend at least a day there. It's just incredible, and the Hall of Fame and the plaques and the trophies and how NASCAR got its start and some of the stuff that went on. And there's a whole big section, old exhibit of bootlegging and moonshining and the cars they used, and you know, guys wanted to have bragging rights, and it's just one of those things. And you know, when you look at that and you look at some of the stuff that's in there, you see what back in the day, it's not like it is today. Back in the day, not only did you build your race car, You hauled it to the racetrack, you raced it, you fixed it, and you went on to the next one. And it was all you. And whatever people you can get to help. And that all kind of changed, I'm going to say, in the late 60s with the Wood brothers revolutionizing pit stops. And then, Richard Petty with the big corporate sponsorships. And then the Winston brand of R.J. Reynolds came in and changed racing for the better at that time. Cut it down, cut the races down. Instead of racing 55 times a year, 52, 50, it was down to like 36 races. And over the years, it progressed, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, it reached the pinnacle racing. It reached the pinnacle where, what do we do now? And NASCAR keeps trying to reinvent the wheel. They had the chase, and the chase has been going on for quite some time now. And now the new point system, or the new, like Jay Slice said in the chat room earlier, it's 2 heat races and a feature in one race. But you know what? I still think NASCAR is one of the greatest sanctioned bodies in racing anywhere. Formula One, dirt, whatever. And they look out for their own. They take care. There's a lot of drivers out there that don't drive it anymore, and they become announcers. They don't become announcers because they talk well or are educated in broadcasting, because NASCAR goes to whatever network and says, we want this guy to be an announcer. We want to help this guy. We want to keep him in the sport. And that's what they do. It's like the same thing in baseball. Bobby Mercer went from the ball field on Friday night to the announcer's booth on Saturday. George Steinbrenner took care of him, the late George Steinbrenner. And a lot of people say that Brian France is kind of destroying the sport. I'm not thinking he's destroying it. What I'm thinking he's doing is he's not in the trenches with the drivers and the owners and the teams. And he's not getting caught up in that. And when I say caught up in that, he's not listening to it. It's like if the general don't listen to the soldiers and the sergeants in the trenches, they're going to lose the war. There's a lot that needs to be changed in NASCAR. We're not going to change it here in this show. In fact, I don't think we're ever going to change it. But NASCAR needs to go back to the basics. NASCAR needs to let the drivers drive, let them beat and bang, put the race car back in the hands of the race car driver. They need to remember where they came from. They need to help the short tracks, develop the short tracks, develop the touring series that feed into the top 3 series. That's what they need to do. And they need to listen to the fans. And, Jay Slice, you beat me to it. They need to listen to the fans. So with that being said, we're going to wrap it up here. So I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules to watch, participate, and listen to the 505 on Racing Show tonight. It's been a good night. It's been fun. And wherever your endeavors are going to bring you this week, please be safe. Please be careful. Tell somebody you love them. Give them a hug. God bless you all, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for watching.